MathKlik.
Mabuhay! Are all quadratic trinomials factorable? How do we determine the factorability of a given trinomial? Sa lesson na ito, itutuloy natin ang pag-factor ng mga quadratic trinomials at ang maaari nating gamiting test para malaman natin kung factorable ba ang isang quadratic trinomial o hindi. In the previous video lesson, we showed you how to factor case 1 quadratic trinomials. In this lesson, let us continue factoring quadratic trinomials, specifically quadratic trinomial of the form ax squared plus bx plus c, where a is not equal to 1. Let's go over our past lesson on multiplication of binomials. If we multiply 2x plus 3 and x plus 2 using the FOIL method, first, the product of the first terms of the two binomials is obtained. Next, the product of the outer terms and the product of the inner terms are taken, then their sums determined. Finally, the product of the last terms of the two binomials is obtained. Hence, the product of 2x plus 3 and x plus 2 is 2x squared plus 7x plus 6. Dahil ang multiplication ay reverse process ng factoring, ang factored form ng 2x squared plus 7x plus 6 ay 2x plus 3 times x plus 2. Pansinin ninyo ang mga sumusunod. Una, ang mga first term ng dalawang binomial factor ay mga factor ng first term ng quadratic trinomial. Pangalawa, ang mga second terms ng dalawang binomial factors ay mga factor ng third term ng quadratic trinomial. At pangatlo, ang sum ng mga product ng outer terms at inner terms ng dalawang binomial factors ay equal sa middle term ng trinomial. Ang mga observation na ito ay siya nating gagamiting guiding principles sa pag-factor ng quadratic trinomial na nasa formang ax squared plus bx plus c na ang a is not equal to 1. First, list all factors of the leading coefficient a and the constant term c. Second, fill in these blanks with combination of a and c. Third, test. If the sum of the product of the outer terms and the product of the inner terms of the binomials is equal to the middle term of the trinomial. If the test fails, change the combination of a and c and check again until the desired factors are obtained. Let's study this example. Factor the trinomial 3x squared plus 5x minus 2. First, we list all the factors of the leading coefficient 3 and the constant term negative 2. Ang mga factor ng 3 ay negative 3, negative 1, positive 1, at positive 3. Ang mga factor naman ng negative 2 ay negative 2, negative 1, positive 1, at positive 2. Gagamitin natin ang mga ito sa pagbuo ng possible combination ng dalawang factor ng 3x squared plus 5x minus 2. For this purpose, let's tabulate some pairs of factors to understand the processes better. But, as you master this skill, the table may be spared and do mental math instead. Okay? Kadalasan, kung ang leading coefficient ay positive, dalawang positive factor na ang pinipili bilang first terms ng binomial factor. Dahil positive 3 ang ating leading coefficient, gamitin natin ang positive 3 at positive 1. Laging tandaan, kung ang coefficient ng term ay positive 1, hindi na ito isinusulat. Kaya x na lang ang isinusulat at hindi na 1x. Ang second term ng binomial pair ay kukunin naman natin sa factors ng negative 2. At dahil negative ito, dapat isang positive at isang negative na ang factor ng 2 na ating gagamitin. Kaya ang mga pagpipilian natin ay 3x minus 2 times x plus 1, 3x minus 1 times x plus 2, 3x plus 2 times x minus 1, at 3x plus 1 times x minus 2. Para mapili natin ang tamang factors ng 3x squared plus 5x minus 2, i-test natin ang mga sum ng mga product ng outer terms at product ng inner terms ng dalawang binomial. Ito ay dapat equal sa middle term na 5x. Kunin natin ang product ng outer terms. You may pause the video to adjust to your pacing. I-compute din natin ang product ng mga inner terms. Ngayon, kunin natin ang sum ng mga products. Sa mga product na ito, hanapin natin ang equal sa linear term o yung middle term na 5x. At gamitin ang mga corresponding factors nito bilang sagot sa ating factoring problem. Sa makatwid, ang factored form ng 3x squared plus 5x minus 2 ay 3x minus 1 times x plus 2. Let's shorten the solution, but be ready to use mental math. Factor 2x squared minus 11x minus 6. Use this factor format. First, write the factors of 2x squared, namely 2x and x as the first terms of the binomials. Next, think of factors of negative 6. You can use guess and check approach. Let's say you thought of negative 3 and 2 and use them as the second terms for each binomial, respectively. The next thing to do is to check the sum of the product of the outer terms and the product of the inner terms. Their sum should be equal to the middle term negative 11x. Let's see. The product of the inner terms 2x and 2 is 4x. The product of the inner terms negative 3 and x is negative 3x. And their sum is x. It's not negative 11x. This means we have to think of other pair factor for negative 6. How about 1 and negative 6? The product of the outer terms 2x and negative 6 is negative 12x. The product of the inner term 1 and x is x, and their sum is negative 11x. Eureka! It's negative 11x. Therefore, the factored form of 2x squared minus 11x minus 6 is 2x plus 1 times x minus 6. Let's take another example and factor this using a different approach. Factor 4x squared plus 8x plus 3 by grouping. First, mentally find the product of the leading coefficient 4 and the constant term 3. Its product is 12. Then, think of two factors of 12 with sum equal to the linear coefficient 8. These are 6 and 2. Now, write 8x as sum of 6x and 2x. so that 4x squared plus 8x plus 3 becomes 4x squared plus 6x plus 2x plus 3. Group the first two terms together and the last two terms together. Next, apply common monomial factoring on 4x squared plus 6x. The common monomial factor is 2x. Take note of the common factor 2x plus 3. Factor this out. Therefore, the factored form of 4x squared plus 8x plus 3 is 2x plus 3 times 2x plus 1. You can verify the answer by multiplying the derived factors. Let's factor another quadratic trinomial using another approach. This time, let's factor 2x squared minus x minus 15 using completing the square method. Note that our leading coefficient is not 1. So we have to express the given trinomial as product of the leading coefficient 2 and a quadratic trinomial. That means we have to factor out 2 and find the trinomial whose terms are determined by dividing each term of the original trinomial by 2. 2x squared divided by 2 is x squared. Negative x divided by 2 is negative 1/2 x. And negative 15 divided by 2 is negative 15 over 2. Now, let us produce a perfect square trinomial. Get 1/2 the coefficient of x, then square the result. This gives us 1 over 16. Add this and subtract 1 over 16. It is as if you are adding nothing. Group the first 3 terms and the last 2 terms together. In doing this, the PST is produced. Then, i-factor ang PST at gawing similar ang mga fractions. Now, add the similar fractions and then express 121 over 16 as square. It is now obvious that we have a difference of 2 squares. Let's factor this part. Now, add the similar fractions. Combine the fractions in each factor. Finally, simplify the factors to obtain the factors 2x plus 5 times x minus 3. How about this quadratic trinomial 2x squared plus 3x plus 4? Since the leading coefficient 2 is a prime, it has no other factor but 2 and 1. This means that the factors of 2x squared plus 3x plus 4, if they exist, are of this form. 2x plus something times x plus something. And those something must come from the factors of the constant term, positive 4. Let us list all possible factors of 2x squared plus 3x plus 4. Then compute for the product of the outer terms. And the product of the inner terms. Then let us get the sum of the products of the outer and the inner terms. Pansinin ninyo, wala sa mga na-compute na sum ang equal sa middle term na 3x. Ang ibig sabihin nito, ang 2x squared plus 3x plus 4 ay hindi factorable. This means 2x squared plus 3x plus 4 is a prime polynomial or irreducible polynomial. In this table, observe how the value of the discriminant of a factorable quadratic trinomials differ from the value of the discriminant of non-factorable trinomial. The factored form of the quadratic trinomial x squared plus x minus 2 is x plus 2 times x minus 1 with a equals 1, b equals 1, and c equals negative 2. Its computed d value is 9. Similarly, the factored form of the quadratic trinomial 3x squared plus 11x minus 4 is 3x minus 1 times x plus 4. Its computed value d is equal to 169. Both 9 and 169 are perfect square numbers. On the other hand, the quadratic trinomial 2x squared plus x minus 3 with a computed d value of negative 23 and the quadratic trinomial 6x squared minus 3x minus 4 with a computed d value of 105 are not factorable. Let's make now a conjecture. To avoid the tedious manner of finding factors, we can subject a quadratic trinomial of the form ax squared plus bx plus c to a factorability test. First, we determine the value of the so-called determinant. It is equal to b squared minus 4ac. Remember, a quadratic trinomial of the form ax squared plus bx plus c is factorable if its determinant is a perfect square. Now, try this. Factor the expression 2z squared plus 13z plus 6. The factored form is 2z plus 1, z plus 6. Factor the expression 15v squared plus 17vw minus 4w squared. The factored form is quantity 3v plus 4w times the quantity 5v minus w. Factor the expression 6a squared minus 3a minus 4. Since d is equal to 105, which is not a perfect square, then 6a squared minus 3a minus 4 is not factorable. For more matitinig tips, just click MathKlik. And please, don't forget to subscribe and click the notification bell for our next video lesson. See ya!